Hello, everyone, coming live from the studio, from the wife's at-home studio. So, guys, man, Sunday conversation. This is going to be one you can slip your shoes off, whatever the case may be. I got my slippers on. Um, I see sometimes on YouTube, folks will do like this crystal ball video. And for those who haven't watched a video from me before, my name is Kobe Cornell Boone. I am managing director and founder of Boone Capital. We are a private equity, real tangible assets based firm. So all things land and what goes into the land and land space in general. So, man, what I want to do today is I want to kind of preface how I'm looking at a few different opportunities, both myself professionally as well as personally, in my professional investor, if you will, accredited investor, if you will, career, and how I'm looking at opportunities for both me and my spouse, both me and my spouse as accredited folks, and how I'm looking at things for the limited partners, if you will, for those of you who are familiar with private equity structure, but LP structure for our fund, man, Boone Capital Land Partners LP Fund One. Really excited about this. This has been coming up on a year in July since I started this. Since I started this fund, this structure, and entered into the world of private equity at a strategic level. Um, but I want to share this as well if anybody's interested in what my wristband says. Who is Jesus to you? It's one of my favorite wristbands that I got from church, and I would definitely add that as well. We are a faith-based company for sure. So there's a different code of ethics and values, if you will, that we operate in, and how we operate with people and how we steward the land. So jumping into that, what I want to do is make sure that this is an informative video for you guys. So I want to start off with reading a couple of facts about a few different arenas. So, as of the latest Texas rural land data, currently I'm seeing that Texas is not collapsing, despite a lot of the videos. You see the thumbnails or whatever on YouTube about the market reset. However, it is getting more selective. Texas A&M's rural land data for Q4 2025 showed the statewide median rural land price at about $5,214 per acre. And for anybody that's currently in Texas, live in Texas, whatever the case may be, you know that changes based on what region, prairie, like west, far west, it changes typically, but just a basis, $5,214 per acre, which is actually up based on these numbers from 6.56% year over year. So even with these higher rates right now, land is still holding its value. And I pulled that directly from Farm Credit Administration that was published on March 12th, 2026, if you guys want to check that out. Next, now on the housing side, Texas is definitely in a reset. As I mentioned, I'm seeing that personally in our rental home that we have right now. In March 2026, statewide home prices were down about 1.7% year over year, with median price around 342,000. I recently got an offer for 350 on a home that we paid 405,000 for back in 2022. So that this is my numbers. This is real talk. What I'm sharing. At the same time, inventory is up and homes are sitting longer, which tells us that buyers have more leverage right now. It's definitely a buyer's market than they had during the crazy pandemic market. And I would say that there are still sellers who are still in, for lack of a better word, la la land, if you will, and thinking that it is still that kind of market in time. However, I do think that if you go on Zillow today, right now, in any market for the most part in the Southeast or some of these boom areas, you'll see landowners, homeowners slashing prices in half. Properties that have been sitting on the market for well over a year in some cases, where folks are starting to realize that, hey, the buyer sets the market. So as folks are starting to entertain more offers or the lack of offers to be entertained, they're starting to realize that, yeah, we indeed, and specifically in Texas, experiencing a reset on the housing side. Texas A&M's housing report also showed that the start of 2026, active inventory was up 11.2% year over year. Homes were spending about 80 days on market, and median seller price cuts were about 19,000. So roughly about 5% off the original list price. So that goes back to what I was saying is folks are kind of slashing prices. And I pulled that directly from Texas Real Estate Research Center, Texas Housing Insight. Again, this is pulled from 2 months ago. It is May 3rd. Right now, this is from March. So I want to talk a little bit about a market that I invest in. So I've always been told and have learned that the riches are in the niches, if you will, in the niche market. So I want to talk about Belize because we've experienced our property down in Belize actually double in value, and we have some equity there that we're looking to do some pretty cool stuff and improvements on that property. So I'll share this. In Belize, we're seeing a shift right now where financing is really starting to matter. Remax Belize has listings in Mahogany Bay showing developer financing with 25% down. And what's important about that is because Belize has traditionally been a very much so cash heavy market. So when financing opens up, your buyer pool kind of changes. And I think to share on that personally, like very transparently, put 7,000 down on a $35,000 lot. It was an oversized building lot, buildable lot for a casita, as they call it. So think of like a little bit bigger than a tiny home. Think about your casita would be like your Tulum style, maybe 800, 1,400 would actually start to get pretty big. It's like that's a pretty good single family starter home. But think about like kind of that square footage, if you will, for a rental property. So again, ours was 35,000, put 7,000 down, financed to 28, had a great interest rate based on, the land prices of the land interest rates that they have. And now it's worth north of 70,000. So even in that case, it started to open up my ideas. My realtor that I have down there, shout out to Hassan. We had a great conversation. He knows I'm in this land space and all things agriculture, land, and timber. Teak wood is a big deal down there as far as teak wood plantations. But we even have had some conversations about larger acreage down there. There's a couple of tracks I'm quite interested in the KO district, a few other districts in the Belize that are seeing substantial development, man, really happening down there. So it's pretty exciting where other markets, many of my friends who have invested in West Africa, South Africa, Mexico, even in Tulum as well, unfortunately have seen who invested, back during the pandemic or a couple of years ago, unfortunately have seen some downsides and some issues with exiting those particular properties for one avenue or another, with changes happening in the world. Hey guys, we're in a war right now with Iran. Things are happening with administration. So those sometimes can present different challenges, man, for the international investor, but there are really strong growing markets. And Belize just happens to be one of those. Quick, what is it, 2.5, 3 hour flight from Dallas for us, to be able to get down there. Strong outdoors, from a fishing standpoint, not so much a hunting recreation, which I will talk about. There are some things happening, but very strong historically fishing, outdoors recreation, nature conservatory type of approach to conservation of land down there that's growing along with the your traditional travelers and your boutique stayers, if you will, with the IHG hotels, um, secrets. I can't think of the name. Six Senses Hotel, really top one where super celebrities come and stay. I know a few NBA players from near my hometown where I grew up have built out there and does some pretty cool things. So, yeah, that's Belize. That summarize Belize. So good things happening down there. Excited to continue to watch that. If interested, shoot me a message. Let me know. Send me an email. We can talk more about it. Now, going to the timber market. So timber market has definitely softened, and in full transparency, it has majorly influenced a shift in our thesis on not so much underwriting for chip and saw, pulpwood, young timber stands, which aren't selling well in some cases, even at all in certain markets right now, and a longer focus on saw timber, which is your more mature timber and cuts. We've kind of shifted on that focus now, and I'll share a little bit on the timber space. So on timber, still long term bullish, which I truly am long term. at the end of the day. But not blind to what's happening. Southern Ag today reported that in Q4 2025, palm pulpwood prices were under pressure across much of the South, and some regions saw sharp year-over-year declines. Timber still matters, as I mentioned, but for small landowners, so like less than 40 acres right now, and many markets can't even get somebody to come out. Think about they're bringing million and a half dollars worth of logging material for maybe half a load. It's just not happening in most cases. So for small landowners, recreation, access, and usability are becoming a bigger part of the value add or the value equation, if you will, from those properties. And that's pulled directly from Southern Ag today. You can check those guys out. On the other side in Texas, this is why I keep coming back to the recreational land thesis, if you will, on active income from recreational values. So Texas Parks and Wildlife says that just from native species like white-tailed deer alone, it is a $9.6 billion industry annually in its economic output, if you will. And that's just whitetail. That's not even talking about hogs, birding, all the other animals. That's just the native species there. So that's not again a hobby. That's an economy, if you that's an economy. And that's excluding in that number the estimated $10 billion industry from the exotic wildlife side, if you will. So what does all this mean, Kobe, and why is it worth me listening to the rest of your video? So when I zoom out across Southeast North Carolina, where I am a owner, Belize, international market, South America adjacent to the US, where I am a owner, and Dallas, again, where I am a owner landlord, actively managing a property. And I'll share a little bit more on that one because I actually am a landlord through the Section 8 program there as well, which I'm a huge advocate for the blessing that it provides for great tenants who truly need housing. Um, and then Texas ranches, which we are currently underwriting for our firm and having active conversations as of this weekend. Actually, put a number with two amazing individuals who are private ranch owners who are looking to exit their property at this time, almost 200 acres in East Texas. We had a great conversation. Actually, had a property visit. Some of my partners and investors went to go check out the property this weekend. So I say all that to say what I'm seeing right now is land is shifting from just this buy it, lock the gate, come back in couple of years, and that's probably hard to say anyway, but a couple of years and it's gonna be like triple X what it was before. Like that's not per se the case. Like land is shifting from passive ownership right now to active value creation. And it's not just buy it and wait, as I said, it's access, it's income, it's financing, it's recreation, it's highest and best use, is having optionality to be able to actually exit that property as well and securing keeping your end buyer in mind as you acquire. Like as you acquire with that buyer in mind and have that optionality to be able to exit that property. That's the lens that I'm using right now. And in so many ways, I wanted to use that write-up that I did to kind of preface the conversation from today and share to folks who are both maybe you're watching this video and you're looking to buy your first piece of dirt, for yourself and your family. Maybe you're a developer right now, you're looking for some entitled dirt or getting something entitled and looking at markets that are performing well right now. Maybe you're an accredited investor, right? And you're like, hey, I'm looking at some opportunities to be able to move some capital too. I've recently experienced a liquidity event, if you will, and I'm looking to move some capital into something. But hey, I don't want to just look at numbers on the screen. I don't want to just sit and talk to, an advisor. And I work with a lot of them, really great guys. But I don't want to just talk to a traditional advisor. I think I want to do something a little more creative. Um, that's kind of where we come into the play. It's exactly where we come into the play. We are able to take institutional level approach, underwriting, and thesis as a private equity firm and apply that to real tangible assets. Well, oh, by the way, not just myself, but an advisory council with literally over 100 years of experience spanning from timber industry, ranching, finance, we have quite a few partners on the lane space and the lending space, whether that be folks from Texas Farm Credit, absolutely great folks over there. Shout out to them in the Southeast. Personally, have worked with Ag South and Arbor One. Great folks with both of those institutions, and they're kind of like sister companies, if you will. On down to some of the even the smaller agricultural or farm bureau, if you will, land lenders in the Southeast. And I have these conversations on a regular basis. Again, both professionally in our firm and what we're doing, but also personally. And I'll tell you guys, even from my own family, as we look to build our dream home on our property, we have, which I'll be sharing more. I'm kind of keeping it under wraps. And for those of you who are believers, continue to pray for me and my family as we make these great decisions for the future of our family. But even for us, it was so important to me as we look to the last 2 years, kind of working on family stuff, title for our shared ownership in the property that I inherited, and cleaning up title and looking at land and kind of going through this thesis. It became so apparent to me. It's like, hey, it's one thing to have some dirt way out somewhere where there's no buyer demand. I'm just gonna be frank. Like, it's one thing to have significant acreage that may not have the highest uses, whether it's recreation or nearby development in that area. It's quite different to have another thing where you have, if it's even 5 acres, y'all. And five is a lot depending on Dallas. Like, if you look at the Carolinas, if you go out, let's say an hour outside of Raleigh, or maybe even 30 minutes if you're going north outside of Raleigh, it's not hard to go find some dirt. Um, you might have to clear it, might have to do some grading and work depending on topography of that area, but it's not hard to go and get 5 acres if you want it. It's going to be a little costly depending on your market in the Carolinas, but it's not hard. Whereas Dallas, Texas is a little bit different if you want to be right adjacent to some of these high growth corridors, because typically the cities have been built out for so long. If you take again like an established Dallas, Houston metro with all the people that got down there, Austin, you have such a competition between your national builders, residential home builders, commercial, your regional builders who are looking, sometimes 10 acres or whatever to go get entitled, put some home sites on themselves. So you have a lot of competition in that market. However, the tailwinds of the generational wealth transfer that is taking place now, the cultural tailwinds, if you will, from shows like Landman, shows like Yellowstone, just the overall general tailwinds coming from the pandemic of folks moving towards outdoors recreation and saying, hey, the outdoors is actually fun. I actually kind of enjoy this. And you know what? I may not like this house where I can't even walk through it without seeing my neighbor's right window right there next to mine. I want a little bit more room to stretch out. I think all of those things have kind of created a perfect storm where folks are saying, hey, I would love to move for 30, 45 minutes outside the city, have an acre, a 1 acre home site, or 2 acre, 3 acre home site might be able to have room for a paddock when you start getting up to five, maybe to have, two horses out there or something. Hey, would love to be able to have an ag exemption. That's another thing that I'm seeing that kind of influenced our decision of saying, hey, instead of, God has significantly blessed us, and as opposed to just going and moving into what society says, or what the norm would be for us, if you want to call it anything, to go and move into one of these really nice communities, your traditional stick built custom home builder community, saying, hey, let's go find a piece of dirt that's ag exempt. Go find a piece of dirt that has great access, paved road frontage, whether it be active lease on the property, whether it be for cattle grazing on the property, or hay. For example, folks been belling hay on this particular property we're looking at and saying, hey, that's the avenue that I want to go. And then being able to leverage, for example, the equity in the land after an appraisal, make improvements as needed after contract, but make the improvements that's needed, come into it with some equity that you can then use towards your down payment, if you will, for your actual construction loan. And I think that's a strategic way. Again, this is not tax advice, real estate advice. This is literally my playbook that I'm sharing with you guys in this conversation of how I do stuff, um, personally. And that type of strategic insight, when debt is high, money is hard to come by, at this interest rate of where it is. I think folks are getting really creative of how they are leveraging equity, how they are leveraging capital to find great deals. And in some cases, when you can't find a perfect deal, like in most cases, when it comes to land, it's not always just sitting there on Zillow. Sometimes traditional residential agents don't. I personally do not use residential agents for land deals. I I consult with accredited land consultants, ALCs, licensed foresters, um, within our fund and privately as well. Is like that is how we have been blessed, praise God, for the decisions that we've made inland. um but also in evaluating, what is true value is, because at the end of the day, this is what makes the land space really special, unique, and I believe rewarding to get into. Historically, business has been done a certain way, historically, respectfully. And for the savvy investor who is able to come in and see land as not just conservation, not just development, right? Not just conservation, not just development, but also a value stack opportunity between access, leases, your hobbyist, whether it be your bird watcher or whether it be your ATV, UTV guy, whether it be your deer hunter or whether it be your fisherman, like that person who come, whether it be timber or whether it be row crop, like the guy who has the Swiss Army knife, if you will, has that understanding. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but a guy who has the Swiss Army knife approach to investing in land and timber and agriculture or row crop and recreational land, if you will, the ranches, exotic wildlife, all the things, right? That is the guy that I'm seeing right now that is being really successful across the board in any market. It is the guy who can sit down at a table, look at a piece of dirt, whether it be a listing video, GIS map, or whatever. Look at soil types. Your look at soil types. Look at your jurisdictions. Look at your current zoning. Look at your future zoning. Your opportunity. What's being developed. Having an understanding of local government. Huge, huge hack. Like that is the guy that I'm seeing as being very successful and finding the right operators on the ground to help carry out whatever that mission is for that property. I would say so many times, if you really going to rather walk in a piece of property, the property would tell you what it wants to be. Anybody who's in the land space, I mean, whether you're a hunter, outdoorsman, hiker, whatever, investor, you walk on a piece of property and you're looking at what God put there, as I call it. Like streams, hardwood bottoms, trees, regenerated trees, active row crop. I mean, active timber plantation, whatever you're looking at access. You're looking at the neighbors. Oh my God! Like you're looking at what's around there and saying, "Hey, what is this? What what is this? What is the cleanest story that I can improve and enhance to make this the best product for that said end buyer?" And in our case, we have four different exit strategies with our particular fund, which is just that. Like one, improving access, habitat, and small zoning changes if needed for a direct buyer to be able to acquire that property for him and his family for the future. The second would be a conservation or land trust type of avenue where sometimes these properties aren't best for development, right? And sometimes these properties also aren't ideal for a direct buyer, could be because of scale, could be size. So those properties that can be made publicly accessible by selling it back to the state, to your public land, game land system, or for hunting recreation, or for hiking, which again falls under recreation, those properties can actually be exited back to those conservation groups or those land trusts, if you will. The third is development, and that again, that is where we are kind of unique in the sense of saying, hey, well, maybe this 16 acres isn't, obviously going to be a part of a game land, 120 plus acres or whatever for hunting in this particular region, as some of the demand for those properties are here in the Catawba Basin outside of Charlotte. But maybe the 16 acres would be great for 1 acre home sites. Maybe it could be 1 acre home sites or small equestrian 2 to 3 acre home sites where somebody's going to bring in horses and partner with a regional builder. Many of One of my best friends is one of those guys. Recently, just had almost 100 units approved on a piece of property, but be able to bring in that person and partner with them to either sell those lots to those guys or actually take that build all the way, right, and partner in that avenue for custom homes. That's an avenue that we have, which would be our third. Our fourth being a little more scientific, a little more niche, if you will. That is the mitigation play, where there is a ton of regional, district specific within that same basin, river basin, same area, a significant amount of development taking place and a need where we're able to come in and be a value add of having an off-site mitigation program that we do with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service consultants, Jonathan Napier and Equity Land Partners. Absolutely phenomenal guys, just amazing guys I've had an opportunity to speak with on multiple occasions. I have some great things going on with out of Florida. So that's a fourth exit that we have that most folks don't know about, with you being able to actually get a property permitted and having credits released that can then be sold to developers, to your big developers. So that's kind of a niche industry that folks are still not quite aware to. So why do I share all this again? And why was this worth me listening to you, Kobe, for almost 30 minutes? So again, I will say for me, I had this conversation with my wife and a partner the other day. It's, you have guys who might go all in on multifamily or go all in on one niche, one thing or another. And some guys have had huge success. Some guys have had some success, but then failed, whatever the case may be. I think what's unique about myself and my family, what we've done, and now where we're going with the fun, is we've been blessed to have um, successes over time in very different markets. And what we've invested in, praise God, has brought back fruit, not always immediately, but in our learnings and understandings of how different markets and changes have happened and occurred in such a way that in all of these, I am able to share and say, again, the Swiss Army knife is the character that wins today. When you have markets that are tight, man, when you have diesel where it is, as far as gas, it affects that affects a lot of things. Um, I don't think people recognize how much that affects things. Um, Political turmoil, wars, things that, the ugly stuff that folks don't want to talk about, that affects arenas wherein you really have to sell your case. You ask any seller right now in America who's selling their home that has been on the market longer than 30 days, aggressively pricing longer than 30 days, whether it's rural land, which typically takes a little bit longer to sell, but rural unimproved land or a house right now, I'm pretty sure there's some anxiousness there. There's some anxiousness there. Um, I don't want to say anxiety, not at all, but there is some anxious, because I've been there, guys. Like I've been there with our first property. Our first property. I'll share a quick testimony real quick before I wrap up this video. First property, we stayed in it like 2 years. Needed to make a change to come back to work on that property, be hands on. With part of that 50 acres I inherited, had that property listed to rent it out for almost 8 months and paid for an empty home in the Dallas market. This is 2025. We moved here in 24. So that was July of 24 to January of 25. That house sat empty. Now, this is aside from the video, whoever might watch this is just my testimony here. I can tell it because it's my story. That was a challenging time. That was a challenging time of uncertainty for me as a husband, as a father, and like making sure I made the right decision. And oh, by the way, so many folks, unfortunately, were in that same position, neighbors, families, right? This is real. Like that, unfortunately, that that resulted very differently. Now, I had always heard about the Section 8 program and it have no problem with saying I had stayed away from it with a 10-foot pole for so long. I think, like any case, finding a great tenant is golden if you can. So even having our property listed for that time period and doing the property management route, because of all the new construction that was just sitting vacant, it was kind of like the same thing we're seeing now is like you have the builders giving every incentive out the wazoo, 20%. I mean, being able to negotiate your rate down, 20,000 in incentives towards design, all of these things where anybody buying a home at that time, or even now that's experiencing that, it's like, hey, why would I go and buy a resale home when I can go a pre-owned home when I can just go and get a brand new one? So that's that kind of market that you're playing in. And then at the same time, where home prices have increased, however, your their job market has significantly been impacted and folks income level has not increased. I was seeing in that particular time like, hey, the rate of that section 8 or DHA in this scenario, but the rate that is being provided for rental income through this particular program that might have some risk or another or whatever, you got to evaluate every opportunity, is actually stronger than what the general market is getting right now. You can ask all your big time multifamily guys you see on social media, whatever. I'm in group chats with a lot of them in my golf mastermind, and they're saying the same thing. Like it's just not cash flowing. So positively cash flowing. So, and for me and my family, we made that decision, and praise God, it worked out great. And we found somebody who's just absolutely amazing and has been a blessing to our lives. And it's a blessing to be a blessing, as I say. So, what my whole point of that, and I hope this video is on point, and this is what I want to just kind of like share in general what I'm seeing in the market is it's that Swiss Army knife. Like you have to engineer your wins now. It's in this general market, and I'm going longer, but it's fine. I was listening to a guy today on a podcast. I check out National Land Realty. No, just I know a lot of great folks over there. So no sponsorship or anything like that, but I do know a lot of great folks over there. I was listening to this guy, John Ross Harvard, who is a consulting forester. This guy, he was on a podcast earlier today. And again, no association at all. Just he had a great podcast up there. And he was talking about, landowners now who are for how should I say this? More educated, just facts. Like landowners now who are more savvy and aware of government programs, PUV, forestry management programs, hiring a consulting forester, looking at opportunities through the equip program, USDA things. Like there's so many programs when the phone is readily accessible, right? When the phone is readily accessible, the internet is readily accessible, AI is now readily accessible for you to become educated on, the true value and cost of your land. Land has been and still remains in many ways the wild, wild west. Value has always, and I will say this, I will beat this up and down the road. It's in the eye of the beholder. You could take a wetland tract that means nothing to a developer. He can't build on it. Anything to it means nothing to him. That same wetland track in the eyes of a soil scientist, consultant, mitigation, conservation banking, mitigation banking, compensatory banking, carbon credit, that same track could be worth millions to one person and be worth less than a dime to another. So it's always highest and best use. So I kind of see that now that again, you have to engineer your wins. You have to value add. You have to look for not just passive appreciation, but how can I actively get into this land space and provide value to this particular property, such that there's a bigger pool for my exit buyer, right? That I mean, currently evaluating, like I said, a property right now with some of my partners, investors, and trying to make the decision of like, hey, there's opportunities where we can have a substantial upside and still near term 24, 36 months for an exit on a property, as opposed to a higher cost basis on a more turnkey solution, um, with some acquisition things that need to be tightened up and buttoned up. However, that would have to be a longer hold period, and in most cases we want to hold um, property for 5 years anyway, for tax purposes, and some of the tax strategies that our wealth management partners and folks that we work with that are referring their clients are interested in, from depreciation standpoint. So yeah, man, sounds like baby girl is excited for me to come back. We're about to get some dinner going here in a bit, but wanted to record this video, kind of have a weekend review sort of thesis on how I'm evaluating things right now, places that I'm excited about, things I'm excited about, and what we're looking at. And if you're interested in this, if you find value in this video and this type of dialogue or conversation, sometimes I'm here in my wife's studio at home, or we're chasing around our toddler and family life, or sometimes I'm out in the middle of the woods on 500 acres of timber hunting, and I'll drop a video. Leave a comment, share something below, schedule a call at booncapital.co. That's booncapital.co. We are 506C, so accredited investors only on that side of it. But man, I love talking timber, land, recreation, outdoors, ideas, agriculture. So you can definitely just schedule a call, man. I'd love to chop it up with you. And sometimes I have folks who are just, man, they're buying their first piece of dirt and they want somebody with some real experiences in certain markets, right? Like, let's be real. Like, are people friendly in this area? Is what is the local environment like, development? What's the local culture like? Sometimes folks will ask me questions about the Carolinas, and where I spent a great deal of my life growing up at. So I'm more than happy to share notes on that as well. So say all to say, I hope y'all have a great day. God bless you. I pray this week is just an amazing week for you. Mother's Day is coming up, so if you are a mom watching this, God bless you. Thank you for your stewardship of, what matters most is the home, the ones that we love, our kiddos and our families at home. You guys are absolutely amazing. So I'm about to go spend time with mine. God bless y'all. Take care.